let's hand the platform over to my co-host, Nathan Buckley. The buck stops here.
Yeah, no, number one for me is the kick that we've been speaking about, and Dan Houston's finish after the siren on the weekend. His coach Ken Hinkley was smirking on the side when the mark was taken with about 10 seconds to go, counting down. The siren had was going, and he was pretty confident about what his charge was going to do. I reckon he's right. If it was anyone that was going to do it, it was going to be Dan Houston. Had a stellar game. I think he's proven to be one of the better kicks in the game right now. It was going to be their best chance of being able to kick that goal. They'd had a couple of stoppages inside 50. The congestion there gets almost impossible. You're sort of relying on trying to hack one out of or off half a step, and it's very unlikely that you're going to do that. So Houston took the mark, went back, and was able to do it. The bloke who needs a bit of credit is the goal umpire. Like, that was a fantastic effort. I don't know.
Wasn't it?
He actually he could have got done for hands in the back. He actually pushed one of the Essendon defenders sort of away to create a little bit of space for himself. But yeah, no, he was able to see it cover the line and was able to
just on those little things.
Right,
we've spoken about Collingwood a lot and what they do in those scenarios where they're chasing the game. Prior to that, Mackenzie with the kick out, with it must have been 30-odd seconds to go, picked it up, straight down the middle, launches one the cannon. Ollie Wines in those conditions, taps it on, surge it forward, get it inside 50 deep. That was what led to the stoppage, which eventually Essendon kicked it out. But teams working on those things, I guess when you get to a more experienced stage and you've got your fundamentals down, you can spend a bit more time working on those scenarios, and that may have been overlooked a little bit with the Houston goal, but they executed perfectly in that scenario.
Yeah, I reckon it'd be something that that Brad Scott would look at as well, because that's the part of the field that you want to chalk up. So that might be part of Essendon's review. And Essendon and the Bombers are my second point this morning. I watched them play. They're very competitive. This is a rap. This is a rap about them. Even when they lose, they've been in games for a long time this year, and I think it's been an exceptional season for them. I fully expect that they will qualify, and I would hate to come up against Essendon in September this year. They haven't won a final for a long time, but there's something about Brad Scott's boys that just. If I was a supporter, I'd be rapt to watch. I reckon I know what I'm going to get, and largely it's around competitiveness and never give in. They move the ball as well as anyone from their back 50 to their forward 50, and they're expansive with their ball use, and that's always been there with the Bombers in recent times. The thing that they haven't had is the defensive integrity. Now, they still allow ball movement a lot because, and I think because they are a side that like that high transition game, they obviously run hard. They've got they move the ball really well, but they actually defend. Even though they allow ball movement back, they actually defend that really well. And if you unpack them a little bit further, I mean, I actually like what they're doing behind the ball. So Ridley's a young gun that's going to continue to get better. Redmond, I love his attitude. Laverde, who they haven't had full access to, I think he stiffens them up a little bit, and Zerk Thatcher. And they've got a couple of runners off the back as well, but it's their competitiveness that really does it. So Durham, Hobbs, Snelling, Perkins, I really like Menzies, who got subbed out on the weekend, and maybe you could argue whether that was the right call or not. Langford, Caldwell probably had one of his better games.
Yep.
So you look across the board, there's not, and I haven't even gone to Merritt and Heppel, who I reckon, Merritt in particular, who's become...
Had a huge year.
Yeah, look, they're just...
The tackle Merritt laid late in the game, I was like, this is a moment for a captain.
I think their leadership has improved out of sight across the board. Like, so, Merritt and Heppel, Heppel was
done.
Written off.
He was actually done. I was watching him go, this guy is done.
And his last 4 to 6 weeks have been really good. He's stepped up, and he's needed to, because he wouldn't be getting a game without it.
So that being said, Buck, this is a big wrap for the Bombers. The next three, so the teams that they've beaten...
It all happens now.
The teams that they've beaten are teams that they should have beaten. They're Hawthorn, they've beaten Gold Coast, GWS. Melbourne was a great win in Adelaide. They've beaten Richmond, who are bottom 4, beaten North, the Blues, who are bottom half of the ladder, and West Coast. They got Adelaide at Marvel this week. So the Bombers are 8th, Adelaide are 7th. They then played Geelong in Geelong. Essendon are 8th currently, Geelong are 9th. And then they play the Bulldogs, who are in 6th position. So in the next 3 weeks, they play the teams directly above or directly below them on the ladder. They need to start taking care of those teams if they want to be considered as a team who's going to cause some problems in September.
I agree with you, absolutely. And then they still have Sydney and GWS who are in that mix. They've got West Coast and North, but then they finish with Collingwood. They've run really good sides to really meritorious losses, like close losses, even when they haven't got the wins. But I love what they're doing. I reckon the Bombers fans would enjoy seeing what they've got out in the field, and they've got a lot of growth that's coming with them too. I mean, Parrish, Shield, McGrath, Stringer, they've still got those boys that are around as well. Martin's had a stellar year, so I think they don't have one guy that they rely on in any part of the field. There's not one midfielder, there's not one back, there's not one forward. There is even a team as you have out there, and that makes it really hard to plan for. They just keep backing up. So I think all credit to them. And my next one is to the Western Bulldogs, and in particular, Jamara Ugle-Hagan. Obviously had a breakout game, but probably for me, I'm a slow burn on Western Bulldogs. I'm really harsh. I think I judge them quite harshly. Yeah. I think they're capable of more than what they produce.
That's why I'm harsh on them.
But then again, I think we've got to understand that this is a tough competition, and Luke Beveridge has had success as a coach. Potentially, they might have underperformed for you and I, but their performance on the weekend and their run home, they are now. I didn't have them. I thought the winner of this game would get 8th spot when I looked at the ladder, but they're now sitting in 5th. And with Melbourne's loss, they're looking for a top 4 potential berth. But Bevo was pretty happy in particular with Ugle-Hagan's performance on the weekend. I think I spoke about it last year about how the tough love early in his career, I think, has really set him up. But he wouldn't be able to do that without a Norton's presence in that forward line, who had a quiet one, but Ugle-Hagan's more of the Jeremy Cameron who gets up and around, whereas Norton is your Tom Hawkins, who becomes gets probably most of the defensive pressure. And then you've got Rory Lobb, who's floating at the moment, but he was always a little bit superfluous, but he still plays an important role, had an important moment for them to get the win.
I couldn't be any more excited about a player in the game than Ugle-Hagan right now. And I've watch him build to where he's getting now and where I think he's going to get to. Don't be surprised if we're talking about him in 3 or 4 years' time as the marquee player in the game. That's the ceiling for me. Now, a lot of things will have to come together for him, and he'll need to keep working extremely hard at his game. Can he get fitter? Can he get stronger? Yes, he can, and I think he will. But he's just got one grab hands like you would not believe. He does not fumble the ball. Just goes straight in, his beautiful kick. There's not really a weakness in his game. He's tougher than when he first came in, and you would expect that. He attacks the ball at ground level with a ferocity that needs to be admired. That's probably not spoken about enough. So the upside for this guy is the best player in the game. Now, whether he gets to that or not, that's where he can get to, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, he's number 1 pick for a reason.
Yeah, I understand, but there's a lot of number 1 picks that never reach those heights. I'm talking about he could get to be the best player in the game. I know that's a big rap, and there's a few things that have to happen for that to be there, but there's no reason why that can't happen.
Well, he's showing some real grit and resilience as well, and you've got a choice on how you handle the decisions that your coach makes or the feedback that you get from the game itself. And it seems to me like he's handling himself really well. He's had some key moments in his career already where he stood up and he's been counted. And I think he's shown the interview that he gave after sort of, I suppose not doubling down, but sort of pointing to his skin after the Nicky Winmar conversation and the 30th anniversary of that. I thought that was significant as well, and it speaks to the quality of the young man and how he's prepared to stand up for himself, and understood the moment as well. So I think I'm really looking forward to seeing how he handles the next 8 rounds and into the finals. My fourth one is around Luke Shuey and West Coast. I mean, they've copped an absolute kicking, and the leadership of the West Coast Eagles have copped an absolute kicking. I thought Luke Shuey's performance on the weekend was worth highlighting, even though it's a little bit off Broadway. But both the coaches recognised it after the game. Luke Shuey is past his best, and his body has let him down consistently in the last couple of years in particular. But what I saw was pride. What I saw was care. He's wounded by the way the club's performing. He's probably hurting for his coach. He's a class player, but that wasn't a bad. He had 8 tackles in the first quarter, 9 for the game. So it was nearly, he went turbo as Adam Simpson went, and he ran out of gas. But he just gave everything he could for the team, for the moment, for the people that are hurting around the place. And you can't do any more than that. But he's simply not capable of playing 4 quarters of footy at the moment, because of his body and because of his circumstances. But maybe that's a little bit about West Coast, where West Coast are at. Last one is around Brisbane, and they're primed. There's no reason why they can't make a real charge at the flag. The only question would be around their performances at the MCG. But they dismantled a Richmond side that were actually on a bit of a run. Yes, Dustin Martin wasn't there, but they got the job done. And in particular, their team defence is something that their coach is enjoying. Looking ahead for Brisbane, I think that they're advantaged by their draw, and it's a tough draw to finish. In the last, the run home, they play Adelaide up there, who are in round 22. They play Collingwood in round 23, and they've got St Kilda, which is in the last round, which is you're questionable. It depends where the Saints are at that point. But between now and then, they've got Geelong up at the Gabba, and they play Melbourne at the MCG. So I think they're going to have plenty of opportunities to hone their game. I love the strength in their midfield. I think Dunkley's been a tremendous get for them. Ashcroft coming through. McCluggage probably played his best game of the year. You've always got Lockie Neal there. So they're established through the middle. Their defence looks really strong, and they've got a couple of match winners in front of the ball. So Rayner's really come on as a young player. Bailey is always dangerous. There's not many sides with a Charlie Cameron. But I just there's nothing. Brisbane have recruited well. They've worked hard over the last 3 or 4 years to put themselves in this position. There's no reason why they can't take that next step.
There is no reason.